Like to me, it was just like I was just tired of not looking at myself and tired of feeling like I hated myself. Um, I didn't like the idea of hating anything. So why, like when it's literally just as simple as just waking up in the day and starting with a compliment rather than some disrespectful remark. You know, my name is Jason Cartwright. I'm an architectural designer.
And what do you do when you're not working?
When I'm not working, I love to dance. I like to do hoop dance, so I do that a lot.
You could still be what you want to, what you said you were when I met you, when you met
Well, did
me.
people treat you differently because of your sexual orientation?
I really didn't have a lot of friends in high school and in grade school. I didn't have friends really until I got out of that and into college. So I didn't really have a social life. Part of it was because of gymnastics, the other part was because people suck. At the time, I did not identify myself as being gay. I guess I heard it so often, because I heard it every day. I heard someone tell me from the time I was in second grade. It's the first time I remember being called gay, and I never understood why. And it wasn't until like high school when I was starting to realize like when other guys would have like their voices changing and puberty was just kind of becoming a really obvious thing for most everybody, and I wasn't. I don't even know if I would say I was a late bloomer. It's just I just developed differently. And I didn't identify that the difference for me was just the difference for me. It wasn't a matter of whether it was masculine or feminine or straight or gay. It was just that my transition to becoming an adult was different than others. I definitely was alienated quite a lot, and most of the time it was because I know this is like today I identify as a more I consider it more androgynous because I don't think of myself as a feminine person, but I know compared to many other men, I have more feminine qualities. I didn't actually come out to friends and family until I was 21. I personally started to question it heavily in the last half of high school. I was still kind of under the impression at the time, though, that it was a bad thing. And I didn't have like an unsupportive family. It was really just the peer group I had in school and outside of my family that made me think that anything homosexual was bad, and because everybody always just like, oh, you faggot, oh, you whatever, you butt pirate, there was always some derogatory word that was attached to it, and and there was a lot of things that it ended up pushing me out of come high school. Like there was the school plays and things. Like I didn't dare go into that because they like all the people that did anything like choir, they were the choir queers, and it's like I had enough people calling me queer. I didn't need anybody else getting on that. I was just like, screw you guys. I'm me. I don't care what you say. And I'm not gonna be put into a corner just because you don't know who you are and you want to then try and tell me who I am. I came out to myself, but I was so terrified to come out to anybody else because the thing to me was that if I came out to everybody, it was everybody else that was the problem, not my family. But I was afraid that if I told my family, what if I was wrong all along? Sure, I was starting to finally be happy within myself, but it ate away at me like crazy. And the only thing that I found release in was actually drugs and alcohol. And that became a really big part of my life story. I mean, I'm grateful today, that I learned from it and didn't go, to a point of, jail's death or institutionalized something, but it sucked because I shouldn't have ever had to have been put in that situation. College started, I met one of my dearest friends, and she just like it was like became friends with her, and it was like she never went away. She just was always around, But she was the kind of person that just encouraged my wild antics and like my creative outlets. And she just was always like, let's give it a try. You know, you want to put some makeup on? Go for it. You want to, you know, run around in nothing but like a Speedo? Go for it. You know, like, you know, just do whatever makes you happy in a moment, you know? And it was that kind of like push, I guess, that just made me realize like, I just need to keep doing whatever makes me happy and be nothing less than myself. And it was around that time that I got approached by a guy, and I just said yes. I went with it, and the rest just kind of turned into a thing. Even when I was in college, I was still finding myself in bad situations where like I'd be in public in like a downtown area. And I would have somebody, you know, yelling faggot from across the street or something like that. And not for any particular reason, you know, it did, you know, and most of the time I never even knew who they were. And I don't even know why they saw me and thought, oh, well, there's a prancing ferryman, and, you know, or whatever it was that was in their mind, you know, like that derogatory button that just was like, I'm going to go straight to that. I consciously make myself aware of where I'm going, because I don't need to egg it on. Because I've had bad experiences happen where people confronted me, sometimes physically. And so the only way to go about, you know, avoiding that is to just, you know, dress yourself down. I mean, it's like if I walk into a Kroger looking the way I do right now, I'm fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to be concerned about it. It's not even going to cross my mind to be concerned. But if I walked in a pair of stiletto heels, that's a different story. You know, I wouldn't necessarily do that down in, you know, some parts of Detroit unless I had like a band of friends with me. But I wouldn't necessarily feel uncomfortable to do it here in Farmington. Yeah. You know, so it's a little relative in that respect. With my parents, it was kind of two sides. Like my mom was very immediately accepting of it, but my mom's a very naturally curious person, and she's generally, what I appreciate about it is that her curiosity stems from a place where she just doesn't assume much of anything. So unless she knows it, she's not going to just presume to know it. And so she just had a lot of questions. She wanted to understand, like, you know, because I'd been in relationships with girls, did that mean something different? So she just had a lot of questions in that way. She was never shaming or anything like, you know, oh God, I wish you were something different. So for that, I was very grateful. My dad was not, he wasn't not accepting. I just remember when I told him, I'm like, Dad, I find guys attractive. And he said, like, his first question was, so your car's working all right for you, right? How are your roommates doing? They still doing good? Getting along with the guys? That's good. You need your tires rotated? You know, and it was just anything to avoid coming back to, and I tried saying it in that conversation at least 3 times before I just kind of got up and realized, like, today was just saying it to him. It wasn't about getting a reaction. And, you know, but the funny thing is today, like, I can say that I've actually talked to boys with my dad. You know, no different than I think, you know, most dads to their heterosexual sons might be like, you know, let's talk about those babes at the beach, you know, or whatever it is, however you want to phrase it. But but it took time. I stopped trying so hard to be something I wasn't, and I finally was just being who I was. So I was less uncomfortable. Therefore, everybody else around me was less uncomfortable.
What advice would you give teens who are currently struggling with being attacked for their sexual orientation?
Find somebody that's older than you, that you trust, that you can talk to. And then with that kind of an outlet, hopefully there's more than one. because it'll help you find people your own age that might be going through the same thing. Because finding a way to relate to somebody is really important. And I think that it goes across all problems, not even just sexuality, but specifically to those who are struggling with finding out who they are in their own sexual identity. I think it's important that they don't bottle it up and think that they can't talk about it. Back when I was in high school, someone gave me the shoe check. They said, "Hey, what kind of shoes are you wearing?" They had a big freaking S on them, right? Like I'm sure a 5-year-old couldn't have said that they were Skechers, but immediately, "Oh man, you are totally a homo." Like, it's not like they're freaking Gucci. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but you know, this is not even a funny haha kind of joke.
Right.
You guys are just retarded. If you can't figure out that those are Skechers, turn on your TV.
Stars met us